You ever sit at your own kitchen table, staring at a single candle on a cupcake, and realize you're the only one who remembers what today is? That's how it started. Not with a bang, not with a fight, but with silence. The kind of silence that creeps in year after year until it's so thick you can't even remember what it felt like to be celebrated. I used to love my birthday. When I was a girl, Mama would bake a cake from scratch, chocolate, always, with thick icing and my name written in shaky pink letters. My sisters would sing off-key, Daddy would give me a card with a $5 bill tucked inside, and for one day I felt like the world had a seat saved just for me. But life has a way of shrinking your circle. People move, people die, people get busy, and sometimes the ones who are supposed to love you the most are the first to forget you exist. The first year they forgot, I made excuses. They're busy. It slipped their mind. They'll call tomorrow. I waited by the phone, checked my messages, refreshed my Facebook page like a teenager. Nothing. The second year, I told myself it was just a fluke. Maybe they were planning a surprise. Maybe the mail was slow. Maybe I was being too sensitive. By the third year, I stopped baking my own cake. By the fifth, I stopped expecting anything at all. But the 10th year? That's when something in me snapped. 10 years, 10 birthdays. 10 times I woke up hoping for a call, a card, a knock at the door. 10 times I went to bed with nothing but the echo of my own voice singing happy birthday to myself. You'd think I'd be used to it by now, but pain doesn't get easier with practice. It just gets quieter, and sometimes quiet is the loudest kind of hurt. This year, I decided to do something different. This year, I decided to teach them a lesson they'd never forget. It started with a plan. Not a mean plan, not a cruel plan, just a plan to remind them that I was still here, that I mattered, that you can only take someone for granted for so long before they decide to stop being available. I didn't want revenge, not really. I just wanted to be seen. But sometimes, the only way to get someone's attention is to disappear. So I did. I started small. Stopped answering texts right away. Let calls go to voicemail. When my daughter Denise called to ask if I could watch the kids just for a few hours, I told her I was busy. When my son Reggie needed a ride to the airport, I said I had plans. When my sister Ruth wanted to borrow money just until payday, I told her I was tapped out. They didn't like it. They grumbled, complained, called me selfish. But not one of them asked if I was okay. Not one of them wondered why I was pulling away. That's when I knew. They didn't miss me. They missed what I did for them. So I took it a step further. I started cleaning out my house, packing up old photos, letters, trinkets. I made a will, not because I was dying, but because I wanted to see what would happen if they thought I was. I called my lawyer, a sharp woman named Ms. Franklin, who didn't miss a thing. I want to update my will, I told her. She raised an eyebrow. Everything all right, Ora Mae? I smiled. Just getting my affairs in order. You never know. She nodded, made notes, asked questions. I told her exactly what I wanted. If anything happens to me, I want the house sold and the money donated to the church. I want my jewelry given to the women's shelter. I want my car given to my neighbor, Mrs. Johnson. She's been good to me. Miss Franklin looked at me over her glasses. And your family? I shrugged. They'll get a letter, that's all. She didn't argue, just wrote it down. The next step was harder. I had to disappear. Not for real, just enough to make them wonder. I stopped posting on Facebook, stopped answering the door, let the mail pile up. When Denise called, I let it ring. When Reggie texted, I left it on red. At first, nothing happened. A week went by, then 2. Finally, Denise showed up at my door, kids in tow, looking annoyed. Ma, why haven't you answered your phone? I smiled, let her in. Just been busy, baby. She looked around, noticed the boxes stacked in the living room. What's all this? Just cleaning out. Figured it was time. She frowned. You feeling okay? I nodded. Never better. She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. Reggie called that night. Ma, you all right? I'm fine, baby. Just taking some time for myself. He grunted. You sure? You sound different. I smiled. Maybe I am. The next day, I called Miss Franklin. Send the letters, I said. She hesitated. Are you sure? I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I'm sure. She mailed them that afternoon. Each letter was simple. To my beloved family, if you're reading this, it means I've gone on to glory. I hope you remember me not for what I gave you, but for who I was. I hope you find peace, forgiveness, and love in your own lives. Take care of each other. Love, Ora Mae. No mention of money, no mention of the house, just a goodbye. The reaction was immediate. Denise called, frantic. Ma, what is this? What do you mean, gone on to glory? Are you sick? Are you dying? I let her panic for a moment before answering. I'm fine, baby. Just wanted to make sure you knew how much I love you. She started to cry. Don't do that, Ma. Don't scare me like that. Reggie showed up at my door the next day, eyes red, hands shaking. Ma, you can't just disappear. You can't just leave. I hugged him, held him close. I'm not going anywhere, baby. I just needed you to remember I'm still here. He cried in my arms, and for the first time in years, I felt seen. But the real surprise came at the next family gathering. They all showed up, Denise, Reggie, Ruth, the grandkids, even a few cousins I hadn't seen in years. They brought flowers, cards, cake. They sang happy birthday so loud the neighbors peeked over the fence. I sat at the head of the table, tears streaming down my face, surrounded by the people who had forgotten me for a decade. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt loved. But I also felt something else. Power. Because I had reminded them that love isn't about what you get. It's about what you give. And sometimes, the only way to teach that lesson is to take yourself out of the equation. The party was loud, but the love felt new. I watched my family move around my kitchen, laughing, eating, making a mess I didn't even mind. For a moment, I let myself believe that maybe things had changed for good. Maybe this was the start of something new, a family that remembered, a family that cared. But old habits die hard. After the cake was cut and the candles blown out, Denise pulled me aside. She hugged me tight, but I could feel the tension in her arms. Ma, you scared me, she whispered. Don't ever do that again. I smiled, patted her back. Sometimes people need a little scare to remember what matters. She pulled away, wiped her eyes. We love you, Ma. We really do. I nodded, but I saw the way her eyes flicked to the boxes in the living room, the way she lingered over the jewelry box on the mantel. I saw the questions she didn't ask, about the will, about the house, about what would happen when I was really gone. Reggie was quieter. He helped clean up, took out the trash, washed the dishes without being asked. But when he thought I wasn't looking, I caught him staring at the stack of mail on the counter, at the envelope from Ms. Franklin. I knew what they were thinking. I knew what they wanted to ask, but nobody said a word. That night, after everyone left, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chairs. The house felt full for the first time in years, but my heart felt heavy. Had I done the right thing? Had I gone too far? I thought about Mama, about the way she used to say, sometimes you have to shake the tree to see who's still holding on. Maybe I'd shaken too hard, or maybe I'd just finally let go. The days that followed were strange. Denise called every morning just to check in. Reggie stopped by after work, brought groceries, fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom. Ruth sent flowers, called to gossip about the neighbors, asked if I needed anything. It was nice, it was almost normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was all temporary. That as soon as the shock wore off, as soon as they were sure I wasn't dying, things would go back to the way they were. So I kept my distance. I let them come to me. I let them prove that their love wasn't just a reaction to fear, but a choice. One afternoon, Denise showed up with the grandkids. She brought cookies, let the kids run wild in the backyard, sat with me on the porch while the sun set. Ma, she said, I've been thinking about everything, about you, about us. I waited. I know we haven't been around as much as we should. I know we've taken you for granted. I'm sorry. I looked at her, saw the sincerity in her eyes. I forgive you, baby, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means moving forward. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I want to do better, she said. I want us to be better. I squeezed her hand. Then let's start now. Reggie came by that evening, sat at the kitchen table fiddling with his keys. Ma, he said, I know I haven't been the best son. I know I've let you down. I shook my head. You're here now. That's what matters." He looked at me, eyes shining. "I want to make it up to you. I want to be the son you deserve." I smiled. "You already are." He laughed, wiped his eyes. "I love you, Ma. I love you too, baby." For a while, things were good. We had Sunday dinners, movie nights, family game nights. The house was full of laughter, of life, of love. But as the weeks went by, I started to notice the old patterns creeping back in. Denise stopped calling every day. Reggie missed a few dinners. Ruth went back to borrowing money, promising to pay it back next week. I tried not to take it personally. I tried to remind myself that people are creatures of habit, that change takes time. But it hurt. It hurt to see them slipping away again, to feel myself becoming invisible once more. One night I sat on the porch watching the stars and made a decision. I wasn't going to beg for their attention. I wasn't going to chase after love that only showed up when it was convenient. I was going to live my life on my terms. If they wanted to be part of it, they'd have to show up. Not just for birthdays, not just for emergencies, but for the everyday moments that make a family. I started doing things for myself. I joined a book club, started volunteering at the community center, took up painting again. I made new friends, reconnected with old ones. I found joy in the small things, a good cup of coffee, a walk in the park, a new recipe to try. I stopped waiting for my family to make me feel whole. I realized I was already whole. But the universe has a way of testing your resolve. A few months later, I got a call from the hospital. Ruth had fallen, broken her hip. She needed help. Of course I went. I sat by her bedside, held her hand, listened to her cry. "I'm sorry, Ora Mae," she whispered. "I'm sorry for everything." I squeezed her hand. "We're family," I said. "That's what we do." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I don't deserve you," she said. I smiled. "Maybe not, but you've got me anyway." When Ruth came home, I helped her get settled. Cooked meals, ran errands, made sure she had everything she needed. Denise and Reggie showed up too. They brought groceries, helped with chores, sat with Ruth while I took a break. For a while, it felt like we were a family again. But I knew better than to get too comfortable. People don't change overnight, but sometimes they surprise you. One evening, as I was leaving Ruth's house, Denise pulled me aside. "Ma," she said, "I know we haven't always been there for you, but I want you to know I see you, I appreciate you, I love you." I hugged her, held her close. "I love you too, baby, always." That night, I sat on my porch watching the stars and felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. Maybe my family would never be perfect. Maybe they'd forget my birthday again, but I knew deep down that I was loved. And sometimes that's enough. The summer rolled in heavy, thick with heat, and the kind of slow afternoons that make you remember every ache in your bones. I spent more time in my garden, hands in the dirt, letting the sun and the soil remind me that life keeps growing, even when you feel stuck. My family's visits became less frequent again. Denise called, but it was always rushed, between errands, between meetings, between the kids' soccer games. Reggie texted more than he showed up, and Ruth, well, she was healing. But she'd slipped back into her old ways, calling only when she needed something. I tried not to let it get to me. I tried to remember the lessons I'd learned, the boundaries I'd set. But some nights, when the house was too quiet and the only sound was the ticking of the old clock in the hallway, I felt the loneliness creep back in. I started writing letters to myself, not the kind you ever send, but the kind that let you say what you can't say out loud. "Dear Ora Mae, you are enough. You are loved, even when it feels like you're invisible. You are not just what you give. You are not just what they remember. You are more than the sum of their attention." I tucked the letters into a box under my bed, a secret stash of reminders for the days when I needed them most. One afternoon, I got a call from Mrs. Johnson, my neighbor. "Ora Mae, you got a minute?" "Always," I said. She came over, sat at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said, "for everything you've done for me, for the rides, the meals, the company. I don't know what I'd do without you." I smiled, warmth blooming in my chest. "You don't have to thank me, Mrs. Johnson. That's what neighbors do." She shook her head. "No, Ora Mae, that's what you do. Not everyone is as kind as you." Her words stuck with me long after she left. Maybe I'd been looking for love in the wrong places. Maybe family isn't just the people you're born to, but the people who show up when you need them. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name written in careful script. Inside was a card, simple and plain. Thank you for being the heart of this neighborhood. You are seen. You are appreciated. You are loved. No signature. I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. Maybe the universe was trying to tell me something. Maybe I needed to stop waiting for my family to fill the spaces in my heart and start letting the world do it instead. I started hosting Sunday dinners for the neighbors. Nothing fancy, just a pot of beans, some cornbread, a pitcher of sweet tea. People came. They laughed, they shared stories, they filled my house with the kind of warmth I'd been missing. For the first time in years, my birthday rolled around and I didn't dread it. I baked myself a cake, chocolate, just like Mama used to make. I set a single candle in the center, lit it, and made a wish. I wished for peace. I wished for joy. I wished for the strength to keep loving, even when it hurt. That evening, as I was cleaning up, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Denise, Reggie, and Ruth standing on the porch, holding a cake, balloons, and a card. "Surprise!" they shouted, grinning like children. I laughed, the sound bubbling up from somewhere deep inside. They came in, set the cake on the table, sang happy birthday off-key and too loud. For a moment, I let myself believe that maybe things had changed for good. But as the night wore on, I saw the old patterns creeping back in. Denise checked her phone more than she looked at me. Reggie talked about work, barely listening to the conversation. Ruth asked for a loan before the cake was even cut. I smiled, nodded, played the gracious host. But inside I felt the familiar ache. The ache of being loved for what I could give, not for who I was. After they left, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the half-eaten cake, the deflated balloons, the card with 3 signatures and no message. I realized then that I couldn't change them. I could only change how I let their actions affect me. I blew out the candle, made a new wish. I wished for the courage to keep loving myself, even when others forgot to. The next morning, I woke up early, made a pot of coffee, and sat on the porch, watching the sun rise. I thought about all the birthdays I'd spent waiting for someone else to make me feel special. I thought about all the times I'd given and given, hoping for something in return, and I realized that the only person who could truly make me feel loved was me. So I made a promise to myself. From now on, I would celebrate myself. I would bake my own cake, buy my own flowers, sing my own song. I would be my own reason to smile. And if my family wanted to join me, they were welcome. But I wouldn't wait for them anymore. The next few months, I kept my promise to myself. I started small, fresh flowers on the table every Friday, a new book from the library, a walk in the park just because the sun was shining. I learned to enjoy my own company, to savor the quiet, to find joy in the little things. I started a gratitude journal. Every night before bed, I wrote down 3 things I was thankful for. Some days it was as simple as a good cup of coffee or a call from Mrs. Johnson. Other days, it was harder, but I always found something. I noticed that the more I focused on what I had, the less I worried about what I was missing. My family still came around, but I stopped waiting for them. I stopped measuring my worth by their attention. I loved them, but I loved myself too. One Sunday, Denise called. "Ma, we're having a barbecue next weekend. You coming?" I smiled. "I'll be there, baby." I brought my famous potato salad, wore my favorite dress, and laughed with the grandkids. I didn't worry about who called last or who forgot my birthday. I just enjoyed the moment. Reggie pulled me aside after dinner. "Ma, you seem different, happier." I smiled. "I am, baby. I finally realized I don't have to wait for someone else to make me feel special." He hugged me, held on a little longer than usual. "I love you, Ma." "I love you too, Reggie." Ruth was slower to come around. She still called when she needed something, still made promises she didn't always keep. But I set boundaries. I helped when I could, but I didn't sacrifice my own peace for her chaos. One day she called in tears. "I messed up, Ora Mae. I need help." I listened, offered advice, but I didn't rush to fix it for her. "You're strong, Ruth. You can handle this." She sniffled. "I wish I was more like you." I smiled. "You are, baby. You just have to believe it." As the year went on, I found myself growing stronger, more confident. I started saying no without guilt, yes without fear. I learned to trust my own instincts, to listen to my own needs. I made new friends at the community center, joined a painting class, even tried yoga, though my knees weren't too happy about it. I realized that life didn't end when people forgot you. Sometimes, that's when it really begins. My birthday came around again. This time, I didn't wait for anyone to remember. I baked myself a cake, chocolate, with thick icing and my name written in shaky pink letters, just like Mama used to do. I lit a single candle, closed my eyes, and made a wish. I wished for continued strength, for peace, for the courage to keep loving myself. I sang happy birthday to myself, off-key and too loud, and laughed at the sound. Later that day, Denise called. "Happy birthday, Ma, we're coming over tonight." I smiled. "I'll be here." They came, brought flowers and a card, sang to me around the kitchen table. It was nice, it was enough. But I knew, deep down, that even if they hadn't come, I would have been okay. Because I had learned to celebrate myself. That night, as I sat on the porch watching the stars, I thought about all the years I'd spent waiting for someone else to make me feel loved. I thought about the pain, the disappointment, the loneliness. And I realized that every moment of hurt had led me here, to a place of peace, of self-acceptance, of quiet joy. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting anymore. I was living. And that, I decided, was the best birthday gift I could ever give myself. The seasons changed, and with them, so did I. I found myself looking forward to the little things, morning sunlight on the kitchen floor, the smell of fresh bread, the laughter of children playing outside. I realized that happiness wasn't something you waited for. It was something you made, one small choice at a time. I started volunteering more at the community center. I helped with the food pantry, taught a few classes on budgeting and cooking, and even started a little book club for the older ladies in the neighborhood. We'd sit in a circle, sipping sweet tea, sharing stories, and laughing until our sides hurt. One afternoon, after a particularly lively book club meeting, Mrs. Johnson pulled me aside. "Ora Mae, you've changed," she said, her eyes kind. "You're lighter, happier." I smiled. I stopped waiting for other people to make me feel special. I decided to do it for myself. She nodded, squeezing my hand. "That's the best lesson you could ever teach." My family noticed the change too. Denise started calling more, not just to ask for help, but to share good news, to laugh, to check in. Reggie came by with groceries, sometimes just to sit on the porch and talk. Ruth? Well, she was still Ruth, but even she seemed to soften a little, her calls less frantic, her requests less frequent. One evening, Denise brought the grandkids over for dinner. We cooked together, danced in the kitchen, and ended the night with a movie and popcorn. As I tucked the kids into bed, Denise hugged me tight. "Thank you, Ma," she whispered, "for everything." I held her close, feeling the warmth of her love. "You're welcome, baby, always." But even as things improved, I never forgot the lesson I'd learned. I kept my boundaries strong, my heart open, and my expectations realistic. I knew my family loved me in their own way, but I also knew that I couldn't rely on them to fill every empty space in my heart. That was my job, and I was finally up to the task. One day, I got a letter from an old friend I hadn't seen in years. She'd moved away after her husband died, and we'd lost touch. But she'd heard about my birthday adventure from a mutual friend and wanted to reach out. "Dear Ora Mae, I heard what you did, and I have to say, I admire your courage. It's not easy to stand up for yourself, especially with family. But you did it, and you did it with grace. You've inspired me to start living for myself, too. Thank you for being a light in this world. With love, Evelyn." I smiled as I read her words, feeling a sense of pride and connection. Maybe my story could help others, too. Maybe my pain had a purpose. As the year drew to a close, I reflected on everything that had happened. The loneliness, the hurt, the anger, the growth, the healing, the joy. I realized that life is a series of seasons, some hard, some beautiful, all necessary. And through it all, I had learned to love myself, to celebrate myself, to be my own reason for happiness. On New Year's Eve, I sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching fireworks light up the sky. I thought about the year ahead, about the possibilities, the adventures, the love still waiting to be found. I made a promise to myself, no more waiting, no more shrinking, no more letting other people decide my worth. This was my life, and I was going to live it fully, boldly, joyfully. As the clock struck midnight, I raised a glass to the stars. To new beginnings, I whispered. And I meant it. A new year, a new chapter. I woke up on my birthday with sunlight streaming through the window, the house quiet but full of possibility. I made myself breakfast, eggs, toast, and a little fruit, set the table with my favorite mug, and put a single candle in a cupcake. I sang happy birthday to myself, smiling at the sound. I didn't wait for the phone to ring. I didn't check the mailbox for cards. I didn't scroll through old messages, hoping for a last-minute I love you. I just sat with myself, content in the knowledge that I was enough. Later that day, Denise and Reggie showed up with flowers and a cake. Ruth called, her voice softer than usual. The grandkids made me a card, covered in glitter and crooked hearts. We laughed, we ate, we shared stories. It was simple, but it was real. After they left, I sat on the porch, watching the sunset, feeling a deep sense of peace. I thought about all the years I'd spent waiting for someone else to make me feel special. All the times I'd given and given, hoping for something in return. All the birthdays that had come and gone, marked only by the ache of being forgotten. But this year was different. This year I celebrated myself. I realized that love doesn't always come in the package you expect. Sometimes it's a quiet morning, a favorite song, a walk in the park. Sometimes it's the strength to say no, the courage to set boundaries, the wisdom to know your own worth. I learned that you can't force people to remember you. You can't make them love you the way you want to be loved, but you can love yourself. You can show up for yourself. You can be your own reason to smile. And when you do, something beautiful happens. You stop waiting. You start living. You become the celebration. If you're listening to this, maybe you felt forgotten. Maybe you've given more than you've received. Maybe you've spent too many birthdays waiting for someone else to make you feel special. Let me tell you, you are enough. You are worthy of love, of joy, of celebration. Don't wait for someone else to give you what you can give yourself. Bake your own cake, buy your own flowers, sing your own song. And if your family shows up, welcome them with open arms. But if they don't, know that you are still whole. You are still loved. You are still here, and that is worth celebrating. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for letting me share my truth. If this touched your heart, if you saw yourself in these words, I hope you'll share your own story in the comments. Let's build a community where no one has to celebrate alone. If this story made you feel seen, tap the like button and subscribe to Tales of Ora Mae for more true stories of love, loss, and the lessons that make us who we are. You can support this journey with a super thanks or just by sharing this video with someone who needs to hear it. Sending love your way. See you in the next story. And remember, you are the reason for your own celebration.